So did they get a high score like the first one? Or like with a lot of sequels, did they just wreck it? Ralph Breaks the Internet. Ralph Breaks the Internet, or Wreck-It Ralph 2, is the sequel to the video game-centric Wreck-It Ralph from just a few years ago. I don't really know if anybody was asking for the sequel, but hey, we got it. We follow Ralph and Vanellope from the last movie. Now the best of friends, living out their days in their respective video games, and their nights hanging out lamenting about how awesome life is together. And while all this seems awesome to both of them, something seems to be missing. When a part on Vanellope's game is broken and subsequently shut down, Ralph and Vanellope go on a quest to find the replacement part in the uncharted waters of the internet. While there, they run across a ton of pop culture references, internet mainstays, and all the other stuff that you would expect to find on the internet. With the exception of one big one, but hey, it's a family movie. And of course, by the end, they all learn a valuable life lesson and come out the other side better people for it, or video game characters. So first, what I liked about Ralph Wrecks the Internet. Ralph Wrecks the Internet. That's really a lot harder than it should be to say. I'm just saying. The characters. Just like in the first one, the characters are all really good and likable. A lot of the characters from the first movie return, albeit with smaller roles. With the exception of Ralph and Vanellope, just about everybody in the movie is regulated to side character and or cameo status. A lot of them are there, just nowhere near as predominant as they were in the first one. A lot of the new characters are pretty good too. Not quite as good as the characters from the original, but they're entertaining nonetheless. The movie moves at a really nice lean clip. There's not a lot of downtime and there's always something going on the screen. This probably does have a little bit to do with it being more directed at children, and their attention span's usually a little bit less than an adult's. Or at least that's what they say. Regardless, the movie doesn't have a lot of time to get boring. It's just constantly going forward, and I did like that about it. Also, I really liked Vanellope a lot more in this movie. While the last movie was more Ralph's movie, this one, while Ralph is in it, and he's a big key part to it, it is much more a Vanellope movie. It's more about her character growth and her finding happiness this time around. I thought the friendship between Ralph and Vanellope was done very well. You really believe that these two characters have a deep love for each other. So when some of the things happen later in the movie, it really does hit you a little bit more in the heart. Which brings me to the heart of the movie. The movie has tons of it, especially in the end. I wasn't expecting it to really hit home as hard as it did. The filmmakers did a great job of building up these characters to a point to where when the heartfelt moments actually did happen in the end, you really feel it. And they really knew how to pull on those heartstrings to get an emotional reaction out of you. That aspect of the movie was expertly done. And one of my favorite parts of the movie was the scene where they go to the Disneyland or Disney World part of the internet. Me, myself, I'm not a huge fan of Disney. While they own everything on Earth now, so I gotta kinda watch their movies because they own the properties that I enjoy, Disney as a company, some of their business practices I'm not hugely fond of. And I do find at times that some of their products are a bit overrated. But hey, that's me. I'm not spoiling anything here, but there is a part in the movie where the Disney princesses come into the picture. It's not a huge part of the movie, but it is extremely entertaining. I thought it was really neat how Disney was willing to send up some of the tropes that they've developed over the years with these Disney princesses. Pretty much every scene that include these princesses was pure gold and brought a smile to my face every time. Now for the things that I thought could have been a little better. There's not a lot. The majority of the movie is pretty good in what you expect, but that is kind of part of the problem. It is what you expect. While I said the movie had a great message that I really liked in the end, it was predictable. And that's what a lot of the movie is predictable. There's not a lot here that's going to surprise you. You see most of it coming from about a mile away. How hard it hit me in the end, I didn't necessarily see coming because that was quite impactful, but the overall story beats and what's going on and what's going to happen in the next frames, I saw coming long before it even happened. And while some would say it's a kid's movie, you're expecting too much, I don't really look at it that way. With any movie, kids or adult, you should still try not to be predictable. Because if I know what's going to happen throughout the whole movie, it can kind of make it not worth watching and not as an enjoyable experience. That's not to say that it's not enjoyable, it is, but it would have been more enjoyable had it not been quite so predictable. Now, like I said, I did enjoy this movie, and there wasn't a lot I didn't like, but there is one doozy. And it's not so much a bad thing, it really depends on who you are and how you feel about the Wreck-It Ralph world, and that's its inclusion of video game references and characters. There's nowhere near as many in this one as there was the original. While the first one was more of a love letter to video games as a whole, this one is more of a send-up of the internet and everything that goes along with that. That's not a bad thing per se, but if you're coming into this expecting more video game love, there's not nearly as much. It's there to a degree, but nowhere near as much as it was in the original. And while I was able to have a good time with the movie, minus all of that, I still found myself in the end missing that aspect of the original movie. All in all, Ralph Breaks the Internet is a good movie. It's fun, it's entertaining. I think you'll have a good time if you enjoyed the first one. I don't think it's quite as good as the original, nor do I think it'll be as timeless as the original. But as a movie on its own, it is fun, it's a good time, and I think you'll be entertained from beginning to end. So where does it stand? I'd say Ralph Breaks the Internet is definitely worth a rent. Maybe not worth a theater ticket price, but it's definitely worth a rent at home. So there it is, guys, my review of Ralph Breaks the Internet. Hope you enjoyed, and if you liked what you saw, hit that subscribe button for more content like this. It helps my little channel out more than you know. If you liked what I had to say, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, let me know in the comments below why. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.
Attention to detail is pretty impressive.
So if they make a third one, where do they go from here? They've done arcades, they've done the internet, so what's the next logical step? Home consoles, maybe? Come on now, think about that for a second. That would be awesome.